Welcome to the final part of our series in Master Studies. So far, we have gone through the observation, we've gone through some focused studies, and now we're on the final part where I'm going to be copying the piece one for one, as closely as I can within reason. If you have not watched the first two videos, I highly recommend going back and doing that because I reference quite a few things from there, so the process will make a little bit more sense if you know what I'm doing. But without any further delay, let's get started and I'll show you my process. The first thing to note is off to the left-hand side, I have all of my notes that I have taken, and I have just these thoughts that I want to keep in the back of my mind as I'm drawing this, and these are things that I gained from my focus studies where I did a study on the composition, which is where I'm starting, in that I kind of sketched in my golden spiral, and I'm making sure that all of my main elements really still follow that golden spiral. So I want to make sure that I'm getting the shapes first. I want to make sure that I'm getting the composition, making sure that's solid before I move on to other things. So you'll notice that before I started detailing, I did just kind of warp things a little bit according to the original image. I was struggling a little bit, and it's one of those things where I made the choice to just see where am I going wrong here, because I know that having a final sketch that is good is going to make the rest of the piece great. So I took that little liberty there. You might not want to. I didn't basically touch the rest of the original image for the rest of the process. But now you can see here I'm going in and I'm detailing, and this is where my line study really comes in, where I'm working on having those confident lines, but I'm not afraid to sketch in some shadows and some form. That anatomy is really important. So I know that Terryl Whitlatch is very, very knowledgeable on the equine anatomy. And to be honest, I have spent a lot of time drawing horses and equines. So it's good, but it's also the sense that I've had a lot of opportunity to make bad habits and bad muscle memory. So drawing this equine in Terryl Whitlatch's style is helping me to gain muscle memory in the right direction. So I really appreciated that. And then going through with all the butterflies, one thing I noticed with this, it is very helpful to know when to be done with detail and when to skimp on the detail, because I was going insane. So even as I detail the leaves, it's just kind of this sketchy, scribbly kind of texture, and I'm okay with that because my focal point is right in that head. So now as I add color, I'm working on what are those things that I was remembering from the color study. And I know that in the end, my colors weren't exact to the original, but it was still something that I was happy with. And it's not something that I would normally choose, like some of these color choices. But at the same time, it works here. So I did end up using a lot of almost pure white in those highlights just to get it bright enough. And then even in the shadows, I wanted to kind of push it towards the blue hues and stuff. But a lot of the shadows ended up being more gray. So color choices, not some that I would have usually made, but I definitely learned something along the way. So again, going in with all these butterflies, I was going insane with all the butterflies. So I chose not to detail these too much, and I just made sure that my one in the front was good and called it a day. Now in closing, let's pull up the original and put it side by side next to mine. Is mine perfect? Is it exactly the same? Of course not. But in the sense that I am learning things and there's some very clear things I took from my focus studies, I gained a lot of knowledge from this, and I gained a lot of good muscle memory from this. If people were coming to see my artwork for the very first time and they saw something like this, I would be perfectly okay with that. So from here, what I would do is I would take these same techniques and these same principles that I'm learning, and I would try to apply it to a completely unique image of my own imagination and see how my process has changed. So thank you for joining me with this series. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that you can take some of your favorite artworks from your favorite artists and you can learn something and apply their techniques to your artwork as well. So if you like this series, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.